there! I am OmnusI here in my lair for another day's RPGaDay video. Today the video's topic is shade. And it's not going to have a great deal to do with my role-playing game Dicephile, honestly. This, for me, is an opportunity to talk about something that I feel affects the game community in general. And I want to explain my viewpoint on it a little bit. So, the aspect of shade that I'm going to be talking about is literally throwing shade. That is, dismissing or harshly critiquing, possibly unfairly, being led by one's biases and viewpoint to slander somebody, something. And I do like the expression throwing shade or casting shade, in that shade and shadow generally are harmless. If something is in light or if it's in darkness, the thing isn't actually harmed for most cases, but it is diminished, it is reduced in the eyes of the viewer. It's not directly harming it, but it is putting it in a more negative, not so light. And just like that, all opinions, all criticisms are shade-like. They don't hurt something. You can call me whatever you'd like. You can insult my game, and people probably will. But in the end, shade is mist and shadows. It doesn't do lasting harm, except people have memories. People have feelings, and nobody likes being harshly and unfairly criticized. So, through the bounds of the internet especially, people have become very bold about casting shade on the things that they don't like, and often for the flimsiest reasons of them not liking it. Oftentimes because, well, it's not their favorite thing, so therefore it's inferior, and they may have a list of regurgitated reasons that others have thrown up before. For instance, when I come across people who have a problem with GURPS, for instance, and they throw down a bunch of the accusations, it's too complicated, you need too many books, that kind of shade, and somebody is like looking for a game system, I almost feel compelled to say, well, actually, if you played the game, you would know that most of the complication is purely optional. This game can represent almost anything, and stripped down to its barest essentials, it's no more complicated than, say, something like Dungeons and Dragons, and actually it could be less complicated than that. So, yeah, it's not nearly as bad as people say for that purpose. Could it be? Yes. And if you have a good game master, the hindrances some people have are minimized to the point where they're barely noticeable. So, in that case, I sometimes get a little fatigued by people throwing shade. I find it to be a kind of a callous and oftentimes a cowardly pastime, because you're really not risking anything on the internet. Yeah, people might block you, but honestly, there are people who are trolls and enjoy rankling people, and you know, quite honestly, I just don't see it. So, if you ever see me make some sort of a comment that disparages somebody or something, I must be in a terrible mood. Really bad. I don't like to throw shade, but I am human. I do have a mental editor that works really, really hard, but every once in a while I do slip. And oftentimes, I will go back, and if somebody calls me on it, I will apologize, because that's not the person that I want to be. I realize that any game out there has somebody who likes it. At the very least, the creators hopefully loved their baby, and they had an audience in mind, and they had a genuine purpose to put out the game that they wanted to put out. Fine, cool, I have no problem with that. The problem I have is when others just go out of their way to trash and slander things without knowing of them. And even if you do know that a game is in your mind bad, and you've played it maybe, you've had reason to dislike it. If you're on a place and everybody is loving something and you go on and you just trash it, there is a YouTube philosopher, self-help guru, comedian certainly. His name is Zay Frank. I believe he was working for BuzzFeed for a while, wasting his talents. But if you ever want to get a good laugh, maybe a little not safe for work, but check out his True Facts About and a variety of animals. It's hilarious. He does great work. But he had, for a year, he was doing videos where he would pick a topic and he would give really good advice, really personal, meaningful advice. I loved listening to his whole series. It was really good. But one of them that really stuck out in my mind and really did alter the way that I am on social media and the way I try to live my life is called Don't Yuck My Yum. That is, if somebody proclaims, I really like something, what do you gain by throwing shade at it? Somebody's like, I really love American cheese, we'll say. So somebody says, I love American cheese. I love the taste. I love the way it tastes on my favorite food. I love American cheese. And I'm sitting there going, American cheese isn't really cheese. It's a cheese product, and it's made with oil. You can probably find real cheese, and it would probably be better for you. And, you know, that's what my mind is thinking. What comes out of my mouth? Oh, okay, cool. I'm glad you like it. I'm not going to say I like it too. That would be lying. But I'm not going to yuck what they think is yummy. Why should I ruin or want to lessen their enjoyment of something because it's something that I don't enjoy? It's something we're all prone to do, especially, again, on the faceless medium of the internet, where you can say anything, no matter how harmful, no matter how it comes across. You're relatively anonymous. And you can count on in 3 months, you could say something truly offensive. And outside of people who might block you, unfriend you, what have you, it'll blow over. People forget really quickly, in the most case. Obviously that's not always true, but often it is. So people generally tend to throw out things like that, and I see it all the time. I myself have put out things. It's like, well, yeah, I really enjoy this, and I look down the comments or response. This is really terrible. I don't know how you could like this. And I'm human. I look at that and I go, oh, I wonder why they didn't like it. Am I doing it in a different way than they are? Is it maybe worse than I think it is? There's moments of self-doubt. Nothing too crippling. I'm usually pretty confident in my opinions of things and my judgments. I've got a pretty decent amount of perspective for things. But I am human, and I do feel things like that. So I try to go through life doing that as little as possible. Do I always succeed at that? No. Do I sometimes egregiously break that? I have from time to time done that. But I genuinely try very hard not to. I try to leave the internet a better place than when I got there. And if I get called out, I will fess right up to it. It's like, that wasn't me at my best. I will try to be better. And I genuinely want to be. And I really wish that more people were like that. Again, it's like my mother used to say, and she honestly did. If you can't say something nice about something, don't say anything at all. If that were widespread, half the internet content would be gone. Really. Everything else would just be a misunderstanding. If you didn't say anything bad about things, what would politics be? Half of politics is gone if you can't insult the other side or demean them. All you could do is talk about your strengths. That would be refreshing, but that's not what politics is. And again, too, in a lot of games, when people are talking about games, they're talking about the ones they love. They put that out there. I love this. I like this. How often do those conversations drift away from conversation and turn into, an echo chamber where a lot of people say, oh, I love this. Lots of hearts and thumbs ups and smiley faces and laughy faces. But sometimes if somebody comes up and they say, I really like something, and you'll find the opposite happens. Some people get frowny faces and sad faces, and they'll be like, this was terrible, and I had nothing but problems with this. And does that help? Did that help you to tear that down? I don't know. I don't think so. If somebody asks me my genuine opinion, I will often say something like, well, I don't enjoy this game myself. It's really not for me. Like, for instance, Pathfinder 2. Interesting game, very flexible, lots of stuff for it. But it's not for me. But if you tell me, I love Pathfinder 2, cool. I'm glad you like things. I'm glad you like that game. There's a lot of people who do. You'll have a lot of people to play with. I'm just not going to queue up for that group because it's not the kind of game that I prefer. That's simple. And I'm not going to go into and elaborate on things like that. It's just, I'm glad that you like it. And that's all I need to say about it. I don't need to say, I don't like it. I don't need to say, this system doesn't thrill me with keeping in all the math and all the things else. I don't have to do that. So, yeah. That, as far as I'm concerned, is really my viewpoint on shade and the throwing of said shade. I think if fewer people did that, I think we'd all be a lot happier. Facebook would be less exhausting to look at. Trolls would lose half of their power. Will it ever happen? No. Sorry, there's no magical formula or concoction that can stop people from yucking your yum. But let's say, if you have a criticism about my game, I'll take your criticism into account. If you lambaste my game because of, I don't like the system, or that's you and your opinion, and you are welcome to it, then you're not in my audience of people that I'm making the game for, and I'm fine with that. I have pretty thick skin over this time period. I can demonstrate how thick skin I've got. But, I'm probably not going to consider your opinion if you're just, again, demonstrating throwing shade, more so than coming up with honest and helpful criticism. So, I am a critic, too. I mean, my Honest Critic videos and my OmnusI Tabletop Role-Playing Game Preservation Society, that's a mouthful. I've got to figure out something shorter than that. It's a critical piece. It's looking at the good and the bad of a system and showing it out to people so that they can consider it if they want. And they're not always great. They're not always good. And I will say what I think is good and great and why. I try to be as objective as possible, but it is a critique. And critiques can sometimes be harsh. I've never really critiqued anything that I thought was bad. Yet. That's coming. I don't think I would make a very good anger critic. I can't get angry when I'm in criticism mode. I don't find that to be objective. But, in general, I don't like throwing shade. I occasionally can be goaded into it, but I generally recommend people, when you look at a game, try to keep an objective eye. Know what you like. Absolutely know what you like. But don't rush to yuck somebody else's yum. Let people enjoy different games. Even if somebody tells me they love a game that that makes my stomach turn, and there's a few that do, which I'm not going to go into here for the very same reason why I'm doing this. If you say you love the game, I'm glad you have a game you enjoy. I hope you get a chance to play your game and get fun off of it. I won't play it. Fine. You're really not losing out on having a player who doesn't like the game not playing your game. I found that to be true. Somebody who really doesn't like a game is generally a detriment, no matter how hard they try, to the fun of a game. But you just won't hear me on that game. You won't hear me voice anything until I come to really bad ones for criticism purposes. But other than that, yeah. Don't yuck somebody else's yum. Throwing shade, it's not cool. It doesn't make you look smarter. It doesn't make you look cooler. It might get you some thumbs up because other people think the same way as you do, but it's a horrible ground to stand on. So that's my thoughts on throwing shade. It's a general call out for people to just keep more of an open mind and not bring other people down to make yourself feel better about yourself. And if we do that, this society will be a lot better. So this also means, of course, acknowledging people of different viewpoints. If you're constantly attacking people of other viewpoints, you're just going to look like you are into histrionics and attempting to do oftentimes what those people were doing in the first place, which is attracting attention for your cause, whatever it is, and you're in the same boat there. So that's my thoughts on that. I think for the rest of the month, most of the things are about things that I can put into perspective more for my game. Hopefully they'll be more useful to you. But this is something I think more people should be aware of, that there is a general group of people, myself included, who are just tired of people being hyper-judgmental and just generally working to the detriment of others. So, anyhow, keep fighting the good fight. I am OmnusI, here in my lair. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time for RPG Day.